Yo, my family, what is good? So today, to end Nexus week, we have the Nexus 6. Actually, it's not the ending. I got one more video. But the Nexus 6 came out almost 4 years ago. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how this thing holds up in 2018. Now, this was probably the biggest phone I've ever used in my life. The body, obviously, is still huge. There's no changing that. I would say I kind of got accustomed to it because I've started owning bigger phones. So maybe it's gotten a little bit smaller to me. But man, it's a 6-inch AMOLED screen on the front, dude. That is a beast. That is like Dwayne Johnson of screens right there. Now, the screen is still beautiful, I'll give it that. The phone actually is built by Motorola, which is kind of random if you ask me. Like, I have love for Motorola, it's just kind of random. For my specific Nexus I haven't had one in a while. I had rooted it and I ROMmed it. So of course, that's one of the best features of the Nexus line. They're just so easily rootable and ROMable, if that's even a word. And I had it running Android and Nougat, which is actually supported up to 7.1.1 just by stock without even rooting it. But I still ROMmed it, and I mean, I had a pretty good time. I was running CyanogenMod at that time, but now it's changed to Lineage. Performance-wise though, it's actually still pretty good. As a quad-core processor and an Adreno 420, blaze it, right? 420, but I would say, obviously it's a little bit dated for sure now, but pretty much everything you're going to do with it, it's going to be fine. Like, I don't want to complain too much about it, but it's not the greatest and latest of what it is right now, but it's not the worst either. It's kind of in between. Like, it's such a hard phone to explain, because once you look at it, right, you'll be like, oh my god, it has front-facing speakers, it's a huge phone, it looks like it can handle everything you throw at it, but it can and it can't. It has its pros and cons for sure. You could also throw a custom kernel on it if you need to, spice things up a little bit. I know I see ladies out there, but it also has 3 gigabytes of RAM. So whatever you do with it, for sure it'll handle it. But I would say Android 7.1.1 is a little bit different on the Nexus 6. They kind of left it at a weird situation. I really wish they prolonged its life a little bit longer. But like I said, you can always root it and ROM it and update it that way. But I would give, multitasking and performance overall rating like 7.5 out of 10, maybe a 7 out of 10. It's not the fastest, but it's not bad. Gaming is also kind of good. The thing is like, I don't know what it is. I have a theory in mind. Like, once the Android phone hits a certain year, I don't think it matters how great or how heavy performing phone that is. I think it'll just stop playing like heavier intensive games effectively. Like, I had that S7 and it started glitching at some like heavy games that my iPhone 6s Plus wasn't even having problems with. So it's such a weird dynamic there. And the Galaxy S7 has much better specs on paper than the iPhone 6s does, but it's so weird how that happens. But the Nexus 6 will still handle, the casual games and everything like that. But if you expect to go a little bit higher than that besides playing emulators, you might want to look elsewhere. Now, the cameras are very average. This phone came out at a time where the Nexus line was still having trouble, really making a dent in the camera industry of smartphones. The Nexus 6 definitely did not have a good camera. It was 13 megapixels on the back. It was 2 megapixels on the front. I don't think I could use it every day at this point, but my standards are kind of high because I have to run a YouTube channel, and in that rare occasion where I don't have my camera, I have to film my phone. I don't think I could do that with this. I mean, I could do it with this, but I wouldn't enjoy it. I would rate the camera maybe like a 6, maybe a 5.5 out of 10 for 2018 standards. Like I said, my standards are high. Maybe yours are a little bit lower. And because Snapchat just messed up their update, I don't think I'm using Snapchat anymore that often. And Instagram's camera quality is actually pretty decent on their stories. So that might jump up to actually a 6.5 out of 10. Now, battery life. You be looking at this phone, right? And you're like, dude, this phone is actually pretty big. Like, it probably has like a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, something like that, right? Right? No. 3200 milliamps, not that bad if you think about it, but you have to remember how huge this phone is. This phone is, and at that time, it was pretty spec heavy, and there's only 3200 milliamp hours to power that huge 6-inch AMOLED screen. So some of you might be able to get a day out of it. On my usage, I don't think I'll be able to get a day out of it. I definitely have to charge it probably midway through the day. But again, usage will vary. Battery life, I'm rating like 5 out of 10. If I have to charge the battery before the end of the day, I'm almost probably guaranteed of not getting that phone, I'll be honest. Now, to sum it up, is the Nexus 6 worth it in 2018? It might seem like I'm being a little rude to this phone, but this was such a weird collaboration between Motorola and Google. I literally just think they made the Nexus 6 have a 6-inch screen for the name because it was the Nexus 6. You know how like the Nexus 7 had a 7-inch screen, the Nexus 5 had a 5-inch screen? I think they just did it just to do it. And I think I read an article one time where people were saying that Google did actually acknowledge that the Nexus 6 screen was way too big, and they actually lowered that down for the Nexus 6P, which is a smart move. But this is definitely one of those phones that's like beauty in the eye of the beholder, because not a lot of people want to have this phone that big. You know, the iPhone 8 Plus for a lot of people is pushing it. So I don't know. If I were you though, I would look into getting a Galaxy Note 5. I made a video about it not too long ago, and every time I look at that phone, I'm like, man, this phone is still a super huge contender for 2018. Like, it is a little bit older, I'll give it that, but dude, like, that phone you can get for less than $200. That is still a pretty decent phone. And there's no expandable storage on here. The Note 5 has it. Like, go look up Simple Alpaca Note 5 2018 on YouTube and watch that video I just did. I think that'll change your opinion. But guys, that is pretty much it. I want to know your opinion on this. Leave that down in the comment section below. And if you guys have any questions or answers or anything like that, leave it down in the comment section below. I read all your guys' comments, whether you believe it or not. Leave something nice down there. Leave something mean. I don't know. Just leave something. Like this video as well if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new, dude. I drop videos all the time. If you're not subscribed by now, you're missing out, dude. I drop videos like every day. I like communicating with you guys. You know, that's what YouTube's about. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys, and hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.